As we shoot this video, today is Veterans Day, and somewhat appropriately, we're at the former Marine base of El Toro. Toyota's brought us out here to have a look and a drive at the all-new 2016 Prius. They're pitching at it as a huge step forward in design, driving dynamics, and even fuel economy. Have they succeeded at any of it? That's what we're going to find out here today on Rumblestrip.NET and 10-Minute Test Drive. If you've been around this channel long enough, you know that when it comes to the Toyota Prius, we're anything but fans. We found them to be not good. Sure, they get great fuel economy, but at a price. And that price is really poor ride, very tinny sounding on the interior, just a lot of road noise that comes through, and just generally not enjoyable to drive. It was a chore to drive them. So at the open, we said, you know, how is it going with this? With the new design, exterior design language, with the ride quality, with the handling, just all about. It's a whole new think on this thing. A brand new chassis. It's going to be a modular chassis for Toyota. This is the first model to come off of it. And right off the bat, it is so much better, it's not even funny. So this new chassis makes a whole world of difference in all aspects of the car. When we had a chance to drive it on the little autocross course set up for us at El Toro, this thing was nimble. It had good steering response, and in this hairpin corner, you could feel the back end wanting to step out a little bit. You really felt it wanting to rotate. In a Prius, really? It was fun. And it isn't only our opinion. We sampled a pretty large group of people who are driving it today, and everyone was really shocked of how good it really is. It's a whole world of difference. And it isn't just the rear suspension differences that make it. With the chassis, it is much, much stiffer. It's about 60 to 65% stiffer overall. And with that, they can do much more with the suspension tuning. Going down the highway, it doesn't feel like it beats you up like the old car. It doesn't have all the noise coming through the floor now that it has that full matting on the floor, the sound deadening in the floor. It's much better. Driving down the road in the highway, it was quiet, it rode well. We got on two different cars pretty close to the same fuel economy in two different loops. So on the loop going up to El Toro, we drove the Eco version of this car, which is obviously tuned for more Eco. It weighs a little less. On a mostly not highway route, it was surface roads and kind of two-lane road. We saw 63 or 64 going up, and then in a different version and taking the freeway back similar distances, we saw 63. So these are amazing fuel numbers. I mean, really, this is not a plug-in, not a diesel, it's just a hybrid. And the fact that it can turn that kind of fuel economy with me driving, and we're not trying to maximize fuel economy, we're just kind of driving it normal. Not driving it aggressively, but what we feel is kind of normal. So it was really quite shocking how good the fuel economy was. One of the questions that we have is, given the change in styling and things with the chassis and quote-unquote fun to drive, which, you know, it kind of is, shockingly, will this draw any new people to the Prius brand? Therein lies the issue. I don't think it will. You know, Toyota wants to continue to grow the Prius and bring new people into the fold. And in some ways, I like what they did with the styling. They made it a little bolder. They think it looks good. I say it needs some time. I like that they went aggressive, but I don't know. I think it's a little too out there on a few things. There are some angles that are truly nice. The rear, I like. The taillights, I like. The side profile is okay. I think there's just too many lines. The headlights, I think, are too small. The overall styling needed a couple more cycles, we think. So the interior of the 2016 Prius is a pretty big upgrade, and it starts from the bottom up. The floor has now full sound deadening padding. There are no gaps in it at all, and it makes a huge difference as in the noise that comes into the cabin. Previous generation, a lot of times it felt like you were riding in a tin can, especially at highway speeds. In this new generation, I'm not going to call it tomb-like quiet, but now it feels about what you'd expect at this price range in this segment, or maybe even a little bit better. So that's a well-done job by Toyota, and I think it was a big complaint or a bigger issue with some of the people who had bought the car in the past. The center console we're gonna call out here. Depending on the trim level you either get a lot or a little of this white section here. It's a little glaring, it sticks out a lot, not sure how well it's going to age as far as both looks and wear. Maybe the yellow with a lot of sunlight, hard to say. But Q wireless charging is available in some of the upper level trims. The infotainment system is pretty good. Lots of screens to choose from, all the information you'd ever want. Up top, we have two twin 4.2-inch color TFT displays, and the different sections are color-coded, so it's a little easier to grasp just in a quick view what information you're looking for. The cockpit is a little more rounded, it's a little more sweeping, the materials are pretty good. Overall, the interior of the Prius is now a place that you don't mind driving in, where in the previous generation you just kind of wanted to get out of it as quick as you could. In city driving, it's fine, right? You've got your stop start. It has hill assist control, so that if you're on a hill, you can take your foot off the brake and it'll hold you there until you transfer to the gas. I think it holds for 2 seconds. It has a whole suite of safety systems in there. It has, well, we've got a bunch of video to roll in for you as well. It has, and again, this is in higher level trims. You have collision avoidance, where if there's something in front of you and you're at a slow speed, about under 15 miles an hour, it will physically stop the car from you. It has a system, so if a pedestrian comes across you, again, we've got the B-roll to roll in for you there, and it comes up, again, lower speeds, it'll stop the vehicle for you to stop you from hitting the pedestrian. So these are safety systems now that aren't mandatory, but probably in a few years will be, so Toyota's jumping on board with it. The implementation is good. We rode along a couple different times other than driving, and the where you're coming up, like you might rear end a car, it's a little inconsistent. When I had a chance to drive it, it was rather smooth. When two other people, it was kind of rather violent how hard it hit the brakes, and I think I have some video for that. I didn't have my seatbelt onto the back, and I'm holding the camera, and I about came into the front seat. That's how violent the stop was. So it's good that it's there. It's an early generation. I'm sure these will get better over time. And I'm sure they'll be mandated in the not too distant future, but it's here on the Prius at under $30,000. So with this new chassis, they were able to move a bunch of things around, and one of them is the fact that the batteries are no longer under the floor in the hatch area; they are under the rear seats. So it frees up more cargo room. And you actually have an increase in cargo room in the back. If you have a trim that has a full spare tire in it, or a spare tire, you get an additional 3 cubic feet of space in the back. And if you choose to go with just the can of air solution, then you get 7 more cubic feet, which that's starting to be quite a lot. The rear hatch area was already very useful. We had used it in a road trip in a previous generation to go to Indiana over Christmas, and we were able to put a ton of stuff into it. That continues with this generation. In fact, you can put even more back there with that additional space. So at the close, let's go back to some of the questions we asked at the Open. Is it better from a design standpoint? Well, it's very subjective. Your mileage may vary. Is it better from a fuel economy standpoint? Absolutely. 62, 63, 65 mpg real world, that's remarkable from a non-plug-in vehicle. From a driving dynamic standpoint, certainly better. Much quieter the interior, and heck, you throw a set of Cup 2 tires and some sway bars at this, it might even be fun as an autocross car. So, what do we think about this in whole? Well, we don't hate it anymore. And in certain circumstances, it could actually be kind of fun. And from us, there can be no higher praise.